Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this webinar that we're doing with the Texas AFL-CIO and some mighty advocates for workers in this country. My name is Rick Levy. I'm the president of the Texas AFL-CIO. Texas AFL-CIO is the umbrella organization for all the unions in the state of Texas. We have about 240,000 some members, and our job is to fight for workers across this state and across this country. Before we get started, I just want to issue a thank you. And that's a thank you to all the folks who work for the federal government or recently don't work for the federal government, to say thank you for the work that you have done. We know that the work you do is the work that keeps us all safe, that gets us our benefits, and that makes this country run. And so let's just keep in mind as we move forward that that's who we're here fighting for today. So our job, like I said, is to be the voice for working people in Texas. And sometimes that means getting involved in legislative stuff. Sometimes that means getting involved in politics. But most of all, it means when our members come under attack, we do everything we can to fight back for them and with them. And boy, that is what's going on today. We know that this out of control president and his billionaire buddies are waging a war on the federal workforce, the very people who make this country work. And just like those that came before them, who hollowed out communities across this country with their slash and burn corporate raider strategy, they're now trying to break the federal government in order to break it off in pieces for their very own benefit. But we are not going to let that happen, because we are the union. And the union not only fights for our members, we fight for our communities, because we know that when we're healthy, our communities are healthy. And we know that when our workers are allowed to do the job, people benefit from that. So we're not going to let them get away with this, not one bit. Our union gives us our voice. So many people are subject to these attacks from this president, but union people have a way to fight back. And that's what we're going to do tonight. We're going to come together, we're going to learn together, and we're going to lay the groundwork for fighting back together. So thank you for joining us. We hope that this will be a good program for all of us to come together and figure out how to move forward together. So I just want to start with a couple of statistics, and I want to turn it over to our Secretary Treasurer of the Texas AFL-CIO, Mr. Leonard Aguilar. Leonard?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. And hey, y'all, Leonard Aguilar, I'm the Secretary Treasurer here at the Texas AFL-CIO, and it's an honor to be here. I'm excited to be here with y'all today to hear from great leaders that are going to be fighting for us up in D.C. and Congress. This is a fight. Don't get it twisted and don't forget about it. This is a fight that we are in with you. We're in this fight for our livelihoods. We're in this fight for our future. Texas is home to more than 130,000 federal workers across many different agencies. One of the largest one being the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, with the other agencies that are there along with that. But Texas is also home to the highest number of AFGE members in the country. Texas has the highest number of members in the country. And that's why it's so important for us to come together now, figure out how we are going to move forward as organized labor and as a community. Most of those federal employees are in our metro areas, right? We're talking about Dallas, Fort Worth. We're talking about San Antonio. We're talking about Houston. But we're also talking about rural Texas. We're talking about those big areas of the state that does not have a lot of infrastructure in place to take care of its individuals and workers. So we're here tonight to figure out how we're going to move forward. This is an exciting time for us to be able to come together. There's opportunity for us here to come together and move forward. So in solidarity, I want to say thank you very much and appreciate the opportunity to be here. Thank you, Mr. President. Back to you, Mr. Levy.
And that's a great frame, Leonard. There is so much at stake, not only for this state, but for this country. And look, we have one of the leading voices fighting for us, and I shouldn't say fighting for us, I should say fighting with us in Washington, D.C., and that is Congressman Greg Casar. Greg is the head of the Progressive Caucus in the House of Representatives, but he's been a labor organizer and fighting for working people his entire career. And so we're really honored to have you with us tonight, Congressman Casar, and appreciate you sharing some thoughts with us about this moment we're in.
Thank you, President Levy and Secretary Treasurer Aguilar. I'm Greg Casar. I'm proud to represent the heart of Texas in Congress, stretching from San Antonio up through San Marcos into East Austin. And what I want everybody watching to know is that the work that you currently do for the federal government, if you're a federal employee, or that you did do if you were unjustly fired by the Musk-Trump administration, or if you're a union member that's deeply concerned about what you're seeing in the federal government, your work matters and you work so much harder and contribute so much more than an Elon Musk ever has. And the reason that the Musk-Trump administration is doing what they're doing, it's not for so-called efficiency or going after waste, fraud, and abuse. What they are trying to do is get rid of IRS workers that are going after big corporations and going after their billionaire tax cheat friends. What they're trying to do is fire our veterans and our nurses and our teachers and things like the Department of Education, because they want to take all those workers' salaries, take that money and give it to themselves in the form of government contracts, or give it out to their donor friends in the form of tax breaks. That's what this scam is all about. And they are trying to destroy the union movement. They want to destroy our federal unions like NTEU and AFGE, because those unions are a way for us to express the power of the people against the power of the corrupt billionaires like them. And so know that they are afraid of your power. The reason that they are doing all these firings, the reason that they're destroying public services, and the reason they're trying to destroy our federal unions, and they want to destroy unions across this country, is because it's a check on their power. And what they want is actually all the big checks and all the money for themselves. So just know that federal workers are losing their jobs for no reason, but there is something we can do about it. There are, I think, too many people in elected office that say, well, we lost the election, and I guess if we want to fix something, just come vote in the next election. I don't think that that is an acceptable answer. We have to save collective bargaining rights right now, because Donald Trump just signed an executive order getting rid of collective bargaining rights, or trying to, for over 1.5 million federal employees. And I, like you guys, am not waiting another couple years to hope that maybe we can change things, or 4 more years. We've got to change it right now. And so what I want you to know is that Congress is actually not completely controlled by Donald Trump just yet. The House of Representatives has only a 3-vote margin, where Republicans just have 3 more seats than Democrats do right now. And if we turn up the pressure and force some of those Republican members of Congress to vote alongside pro-worker, pro-union Democrats, we can restore collective bargaining rights for all 1.5 million federal employees. We can restore things like the Department of Education. We can end the crashes that are happening at the Social Security Administration. We can restore people's jobs that have been unjustly taken away from them, to restore services for our constituents. We just need the pressure to ramp up. Look, about 7-8 years ago, Donald Trump was president. Republicans controlled the House and the Senate, and they said it was their mission to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, what a lot of people know of as Obamacare. And you would think they would have done it. They tried time and time again, but there were union members speaking out, people sitting in members of Congress's offices. They came and did sit-ins here in DC. They went and sat in members of Congress's offices back home in Texas and Arizona and Louisiana, all across the country. And they pushed hard. And at the end of the day, those pro-healthcare Democrats and a few Republicans, and the Senate in particular, one with a spine, stood up and said no. And today we still have the Affordable Care Act and still have Obamacare. And so we are now in the fight of our lives to end these billionaire tax cuts, restore these federal workers that have had their jobs unjustly taken away from them, and restore collective bargaining rights for the 1.5 million federal employees who've had it taken away. And we can win that fight, but we have to be willing to unite. We have to push my party, the Democratic Party, to actually really fully be a pro-worker, pro-union party, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Push us to get fired up, and then push the Republicans to break with their president. And if we just get a few of them to break, then I think instead of firing our public school teachers, we could fire Elon Musk. Instead of firing veterans at the VA, we could fire Elon Musk. Instead of firing scientists and public health workers and people at the IRS, we can instead fire Elon Musk. And instead of giving a tax break to billionaires by taking workers' salaries, we should be giving workers a raise. And that is not that far off. But the only way we can do it is through the union movement, staying committed, and honestly escalating the pressure. Because the last thing I'll tell you guys, and I'm happy to answer questions soon, but I got to tell you, it's a little too quiet in Washington, D.C. I really think that if workers are under attack in this sort of way, over 1 million people getting their collective bargaining rights taken, they're coming for more people's collective bargaining rights next. They're not just stopping at the federal government. They're not just stopping at federal employees. They're coming for everybody. So I think it's a little bit too quiet, but if we turn up the noise and turn up the pressure, I think that we can stop some of these abuses and start building the kind of country that we want. So thank you all very much. We'll be here to talk with you guys more.
Thank you, Congressman. I not only think so, I know so, because that's what we've done time and time again. Thank you for your remarks. Thank you for leading this fight. And thank you for always standing with working people. Our next guest that we're going to hear from is Congressman Mark Vesey from Fort Worth. Congressman Vesey has been probably one of the most consistent advocates for working people through his time, not only in the Congress, but here in the Texas State Legislature. We're proud to call him a friend, and we're proud that he is standing with us tonight. So, Congressman.
Hey, Rick, thank you very much. And I definitely count you and every other working man and woman out there that is a part of AFL-CIO as friends, and appreciate your friendship for all these years. And I got to tell you, I think that this is probably the worst time that I've had as an elected official for sure. But even before that, when I was a staffer. So I've been doing this, it's hard to believe now, close to 30 years collectively. And this is the very worst time. I will tell you that. For me, these are friends and family members, people that I've known my entire life, people that that knew my family before I was born in Fort Worth. We have the third largest concentration of federal employees in the DFW area. We have about 74,000 people that work for the federal government, and then think about the number of people that are contractors and have other positions within the various governmental agencies now that are worried about whether or not they're going to have their jobs. And regardless of what you hear people say about these employees, and everybody on this call already knows that, they are parents, they're grandparents, they're taking care of aging parents. They have their kids in Little League. They spend money at the local dry cleaners, on the coffee shops. They're like everyone else. And this madman, this crazy man, Donald Trump, has come in and just completely wrecked their lives. And some of it has just been so cruel. I don't know if you saw the reports last week on April Fool's Day about the federal employees that showed up to work and their badges wouldn't swipe when they got there. That's how they found out, was on April Fool's Day, how they lost their jobs. How can someone be that cruel and inhumane to treat people that way and to take glee in people's misery and in people losing their jobs and their families being disrupted and their home life being completely shaken by just wrongly losing their jobs? Another thing, and y'all already know this, many of these employees have served dutifully in our armed services. They served in all the branches, and 40% of these employees have served in the military. Many of your AFL-CIO brothers and sisters with AFG that helped put this call together tonight, they have served dutifully in our armed services, and the way they're being treated is just completely not right. The other thing that I'll tell you that I'm very worried about, that I don't think is getting enough attention, is you cannot do this billionaire tax cut that's going to cost trillions of dollars. You absolutely cannot do it without cutting into Medicare and Social Security and Medicaid. It's impossible. It's impossible. It's over 50% of federal spending. And so these stories that you're hearing about these Social Security offices closing and people having to show up in person or online in order to renew their Social Security to make sure that no 160-year-olds are getting Social Security, which that was just a bunch of bull. That whole deal that Elon Musk made up about all those people that were really old getting checks, that was completely fabricated and false, and it was 100% misleading. But the reason why they're doing that is because they are trying to remove hundreds of thousands of people from the Social Security rolls in order to be able to do this tax cut for these oligarchs and billionaires. And so we need to know that. That is what that is all about. And so when you see these offices, when you closing, when you hear about these renewals that have to take place, they're counting on people not renewing their Social Security so they can pay for these cuts or for these billionaires tax cuts. And they're going to do that by reducing probably ultimately everyone's Social Security. They're going to try to kick and look for technicalities to kick as many people off as they can first. But what's going to happen next is that they're going to do a reduction in Social Security. I guarantee you that that's going to happen. And you're also going to see a lot of reductions as far as what Medicare looks like. Because again, the only way how you can serve this uber wealthy class is by cutting these particular programs. The other thing that I'm worried about too, I think that it's absolutely insane that Texas is one of the largest economies, not just out of all 50 states, but in the world. And y'all have all heard the different numbers citing that if Texas was its own country, what the size of what our state's economy would be versus other large industrialized countries. And all that's true. But how in the world can the governor of the state and our HHS secretary, Robert Kennedy, how can they be proud of a measles outbreak in a state that people are flocking to and want to live in? It's unbelievable what they are doing. And it's crazy that now we have a measles outbreak for a disease that just a few years ago was declared eradicated in this country. And now it's made a comeback because of these loonies that are in office. And so that is something that we're really going to need labor to remind their members about, is how their kids and their grandkids are being put at risk because of this administration. So not only is your financial security at stake, but your children's health care is at stake, and your health care as far as infectious diseases and things like measles are concerned, because they're turning back the hands of time. And like Greg was saying earlier as well, they are going to try to do everything that they can to turn back the clock on labor and the rights that labor have negotiated, marched for, died for decades now. They're going to try to roll those back. That clown that you see going on Fox News that talks about how Trump is the best thing that ever happened for UAW. That guy's a complete clown. That guy's going to be the first one out there looking for work. He's going to be the first one out there that probably gets fired and thinking that he's a big shot by not being honest with everyone else about what Trump is trying to do to organize labor in this country. And I will never forget, there was a woman that said that if it wasn't for organized labor, she said that the car company that she worked for will be paying her $5 an hour if they could get away with it. She said the reason why they earn a good living there was because of organized labor. And that's the truth. And that is the absolute truth. And so it's our job to make sure that all these facts get out, that we work with organized labor to make sure that everyone knows that all of these things are important and that they're relevant. And the other thing too that I will just ask people is to make sure that you don't swing at everything that this guy throws. He's going to throw you all kinds of wild pitches. And some of them just aren't good pitches, man. For any of you that have had kids that have played baseball, or maybe you played some baseball yourself, he's going to try to flood the zone, as they say, and it is going to be tough. And so whatever the three issues are that's important to organized labor, stay focused on those. It's going to be very tempting. He's going to say something that's just completely just outrageous and offend you on every level. Don't take the bait.
Yeah.
Find three topics that are important to organized labor and drive it home to your membership, drive it home at all the rallies that you're going to, and talk about it and talk about it and talk about it.
Yeah.
At our retreat that Greg and I just had, one of the presenters at our Democratic Caucus retreat, he said something really smart that I think that people should remember, and I'll close with this. He said, if you say 35 things, nobody will remember a word that you said. But if you say 3 things, people will remember everything that you said. And so whatever that is, organized labor at Texas AFL-CIO, drive those 3 things home over and over and over again.
Yes,
Rick?
sir. Thank you so much, Congressman. I appreciate that. And great advice. And I'm seeing what's going on in the chat. And thank you all for speaking up in the chat, asking questions. It's great. We're going to be getting to those questions after, so stick with us. And I just want to say one thing. This is not a Democrat-Republican thing at this point. There are people in the union, both Democratic and Republican. We're here for workers. And whoever stands with workers, we're going to stand with them. And if they don't stand for workers, we're going to fight them. So I just wanted to clear that up and about why we're here. And now let's hear from our next guest, who is no stranger to those who fight for working people, from the Houston, Congresswoman Sylvia Garcia, my congresista. Congresista, thank you so much for joining us and for always raising your voice for working people. And appreciate if you share a couple of comments with us tonight.
Well, thank you, Rick, and thank you to Leonard for inviting us and putting this together with, of course, AFL-CIO. It's really important for all of us to talk about some of these issues, because just talking about them really does help, and asking the questions and getting clarifications helps. And I want to thank, too, my colleagues, Casar and Visi and Castro, for all of us being here, because I can tell you, Rick, we have a very strong pro-labor Democratic delegation from Texas. And you can rest assured that all of us are lifting our voices. We're in it for the fight, and we'll stand with you. But let's start with the easy stuff. The president has no idea, neither does Musk, about what federal workers actually do. And they're clueless, beginning with Musk himself. They act like public servants are the problem, lazy and unnecessary. So let's call it what it is. This is about breaking unions, cutting agencies, and hollowing out government from the inside. And it's not a coincidence. Remember, we talked about it during the campaign. It's about Project 2025. They said what they'd do: no more unions, no more overtime, no more collective bargaining. They told us that they'd go after every single agency. Now they're making good on that promise. They are following Project 2025 to the letter, to a T. We've already seen the fallout. Offices in Houston are shutting down. Congressman Castro is seeing closures in San Antonio, Nacogdoches too. And that's just the buildings. Inside, agencies are being hollowed out, forced retirements, hiring freezes, reassignments, mass attrition, pauses. They call it all kinds of different names, but the bottom line is they're kicking workers out the door. They're even going after NOAA, the folks who tell us when hurricanes are coming. We're weeks from another brutal summer, and they're targeting the very people who keep us safe to alert us when a storm is coming. FEMA, same story. We're even hearing about employees being brought back when Elon Musk says, oh, well, that was a mistake, only to see those employees be put immediately on administrative leave. They are reinstated in name only. It's all a lie. I talked to some workers who told me that they've been ordered not to work. They bring them back to make it look to the courts like they're following the law, but they're not working. They're told not to work. And while we're talking about lies and jobs, the president's team says, don't worry, tariffs will bring back American manufacturing and we'll all be good. Really? We should be asking how many jobs are actually coming back, because right now, all we're seeing is layoff after layoff. You all know I've spent nearly 50 years in government, local, at the city, at the county, state, and federal. I have represented Clear Lake when I served as city controller and as county commissioner. That's NASA area. Let me read you what a NASA engineer sent me. Quote, I helped build the space station. I launched 37 space shuttle missions. We're being misrepresented as fraud, waste, and abuse. We are loyal Americans working for America. Being threatened with being fired is a huge distraction. That's who we're fighting for. Federal workers don't show up for glory or ego. They show up because they believe in people and service. They believe in teamwork. They believe in our country. In my DC office, we've got a giant whiteboard, 4 foot by 6 foot. It's covered in notes on every agency, every cut, every worker we're fighting for. This is on top of mind for me and my team every single day, because your work, our work, is what makes this country livable. Rick said that in his opening statement. Without your work, this country stops. And that's why we're fighting back. What are Democrats doing? I know you all want to know. Well, right now there are over 171 lawsuits challenging Trump, not directly by us as members of Congress, because we can't file lawsuits, but we have allies who are fighting for us. And when we can, we file amicus briefs as members of Congress. As a former judge, I didn't used to sign on to any of these things, but this moment is just too damn important to stay quiet. We've already filed 2 briefs, one defending humanitarian workers at USAID and another protecting the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. More are coming on the National Labor Relations Board, the FTC, and others. And you say, well, they filed 2 or 3 amicus briefs out of 171. Well, that's not too much. Well, Trump has issued at least 168 executive actions. Maybe he issues some more while we were talking tonight. But we're focusing on some of the most egregious, the most unconstitutional, where they are violating the intent of Congress and hurting people the most. And guess what? We're winning. The CFPB just scored a major victory today. Not today, but last week. The judge said that they'd ruled the other way, the whole agency would have been dismantled overnight. He even cited our brief in the opinion. That's not just a footnote. That means we helped make the case and the court listened. Now, let me say this about the CFPB. It protects working families. It holds companies, including Musk, accountable. That's why they're trying to tear it apart. But let me be real with you. This is going to hurt. It's like we're going through another pandemic, not with a virus, but it'll spread like one. We're heading toward an economic pandemic. Jobs lost, savings gone, people won't spend. They'll lose their homes, their livelihoods, their sense of stability. We have to reopen food banks. We'll have to make sure that people get taken care of and that we get the funding that we need. And to make matters worse, they passed a bill banning any review of Trump's tariffs. They've muzzled Congress and handed him the keys. It's unconscionable and families will suffer. And so Trump can say, well, I want to make a deal, please. He says short-term pain for long-term gain, but we know better. He's lying. He always does. Where was that mindset during COVID? He opposed masks. He blocked saving measures, all to protect the stock market. Now every day he's tanking the stock market. He wants to pretend he cares about the future. Come on. We know better. We're workers.
Yeah.
We know exactly what's going on.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we do. But here's what matters. We're not backing down, Rick.
That's right.
We're going to fight back with every ounce of fury that we've got. And we have to stick together, just as Greg said, and just as Mark said, and I'm sure that Joaquin will say the same thing. Because we've done it before, Rick.
Yeah,
you know that. During the pandemic, when tried to tear us apart, we said no. We believed in science. We believed in each other. And we believe this country works best when we work and do things together. Government and the people for the people. And that's what it's all about. So let's keep fighting. Let's stay focused. And let's make sure that we win this thing. Thank you all for having me tonight.
Thank you, Congresswoman. And I that is the inspiration that I think we're talking about. I see a lot of things in the chat resonating with that and wondering, what are we going to do and how are we going to fight back? And that's all understanding what we're doing. And that's exactly what this call is about tonight. So I want to bring in our next speaker, our last congressperson that's going to talk to us, who represents one of the areas that's probably the most hardest hit of anywhere in San Antonio. And Congressman Castro, thank you so much for joining us. I know you've stuck your beak right in the middle of all these big fights that we've been having, and this is no different. And the people in San Antonio and really all of us are lucky to have you fighting for us tonight. So want to turn it over to you and offer some remarks for us, please.
No, well, thank you, Rick, and to everyone at the AFL-CIO, the AFGE, who I had a chance to meet with in the last few weeks, and all the federal workers and union members that are on this call. I think that all of us would agree, my colleagues and I, that we appreciate your work, that we value your work, that we know how much you power the federal government, the state government, and other places that you work. And so I just want to say thank you, especially in this very tumultuous, very painful time for a lot of folks. What you're witnessing is an attempt to radically transform American society. That's what Donald Trump and Elon Musk through Doge are attempting to do. And my colleagues have laid out a lot of great things. And, one of the questions that I've been getting a lot is, what are you all doing? And then the second question is, well, what can I do, or what can we do? And want to say that we've pursued two different strategies, because what you're seeing is things going on both through the executive branch, through executive orders and executive actions. Remember, those executive orders are meant to go around Congress. So those are not pieces of legislation that a member of the Senate or the House is filing because Donald Trump wants it to become law. Those are meant to usurp legislative authority and oftentimes go around the Congress. And so that's when Sylvia and Greg and Mark mentioned that we've been supporting legislation, making sure that we're supporting those lawsuits that have been filed against the administration. And we've seen victories in court. In fact, I think that we've put up on our website, our official website for Congress, some of the major victories and the status of some of the major lawsuits that have taken place so far. So one of the things that we're doing is supporting the attorneys that are going into court, the organizations that are going into court, to block and to stop those bad executive orders. The second piece is the legislative piece. There are other, I think, very terrible things that the administration is trying to run through the Congress. And so that's where we're fighting in the legislative branch, in the House and in the Senate. Not the Texas senators, but other senators are standing up and fighting against what's going on. So, for example, today I signed on to the Protect America's Workforce Act. That's a piece of legislation that would essentially nullify what President Trump is trying to do by taking away collective bargaining rights for federal employees. We also, all of us are standing up to try to block this budget resolution that, as folks have mentioned, would strip a lot of the money from programs like Medicaid and take that money from the layoff of federal employees, take that money and give it to billionaires and to the most elite corporations in this country. Now, bear in mind, as y'all remember, during Trump's first term, those folks already got a huge tax cut. And that was just a few years ago. And now they're trying to do it again. And so we're standing up in the legislative branch, in the chambers, and fighting on these things. And then finally, the question gets asked to me a lot. I did an in-person town hall in San Antonio, and then did one with Trey Martinez-Fisher, state rep there. We also had a telephone town hall that at one point had about 11,000 folks in San Antonio in my district on the call. And we'll continue to do more to raise these issues. But people ask the question, well, what can I do? And at times like this, it's not unusual for people to feel both angry, frustrated, but often sometimes powerless, because they want to know what they can do. And of course, the answer is for you to keep speaking up. We, all of us, whether you're in public office or out there, we cannot give up and we cannot surrender. Because if we do, then they win. So continue calling and emailing, doing everything that you can to get the attention of legislators, because Greg and Sylvia and Mark, all of us know that sets the tone for how they think about how they're going to vote on legislation. But I would also offer you this. All of these things that we're talking about, whether it's your job, it's your Social Security, your Medicaid, whatever it is, Medicare, those are more than just line items on a budget. And so I would ask you to do this. Tell your story. Talk about how these things impact your life or the life of the people, the lives of the people that you love, your friends, your neighbors, your relatives. And share those stories, not just with elected officials, but share them all over social media. You may think, well, I've got like 500 friends or whatever, and they're not involved in government. It doesn't really matter. It does matter, because we're setting a tone for how the rest of the country thinks about all of this. And the chorus of voices and sharing of stories about how damaging what Donald Trump and Elon Musk are doing, that sets the tone for the country. So let me close with this, a brief story about how in my own life, in my own family, I think about these issues. I've often told the story about my grandmother, who came to this country when she was about 6 or 7 years old as an orphan. She came from Coahuila, Mexico, in northern Mexico. And my grandmother never made it past elementary school. She had to drop out and help and work and help her family when she was in the 3rd or 4th grade. My grandmother worked most of her childhood and all of her adulthood until she couldn't anymore as a maid, a babysitter, and a cook. And after all those decades of working, my grandmother never owned a house. She never owned a car. I don't think she even had a bank account. She used to take her $335 a month Social Security check to a supermarket named Centeno, and she would cash her check and put it in her red purse. And that was it. The only thing that my grandmother had after working all of those years was that $335 a month Social Security check and Medicare. So if you ask me whether I will vote to cut Medicare and Social Security from seniors, I think about my grandmother and her life and her hard work and what it meant for her. And the fact is, you still have seniors and others out there right now who are experiencing the same thing. That's a story with respect to Social Security and Medicare. It's the same story with respect to other things, cancer research, our jobs, obviously, all of these things. Share those stories. They can have an incredible impact if we all share them together. Thank y'all for being on this call. And like my colleagues, I'm glad to take questions as y'all have them.
Thank you so much, Congressman. Awesome. And you directly answered the question, what can people do? And that's right. Our stories are powerful and our organizing is powerful. We just need to keep telling them, keep fighting. Thank you so much for joining us and thank you for fighting with us. And we will get to the questions. So one of my mentors, one of my heroes in this movement is somebody who's really on the hot seat right now, who's trying to lead the fight for all of us here in Texas when it comes to supporting federal workers and supporting the services for the people who need them. That's my sister, Cheryl Eliano, National Vice President, District 10 for AFGE. Cheryl, thank you so much for joining us. I want you to know before you even say a word that the 240,000 members of the Texas AFL-CIO are standing right behind you. So anytime you feel like it's getting tough, you just look around, there we are. And we're going to be with you and your members through this fight. And we're honored that you would join us tonight and look forward to hearing what you think we need to do as we go.
Thank you, Rick. I'm Cheryl Eliano, as Rick just said, National Vice President of the American Federation of Government Employees, District 10. Thank you, Congressman Kuzar and Congressman Castro and Congressman Vesey and Congresswoman Garcia for being on the call with us tonight. Thank you so much for your support. And a special thank you to President Rick Levy at the Texas AFL-CIO and his team for all the solidarity they have provided us. Thank you all so much. Our union, AFGE, proudly represent 820,000 patriotic and dedicated Americans serving the American people in the federal and DC government. Many who live and work in the state of Texas. A third of those public servants are veterans. Today, those Americans are under attack. Those veterans are under attack. Their fundamental constitutional rights to join a union is under attack. And it is already a serious issue for every American. Let it be clear. Invoking national security as justification for this action is a ridiculous pretext, not a legitimate reason. AFG has been around for over 90 years. Federal employees, many veterans themselves, have safeguarded America's security for decades. and we've done it with a union contract. It's ridiculous to think that unions weren't a security issue during the Cold War, during the Desert Storm, during the War on Terror, and Trump's first term. But all of a sudden, now we are. This isn't about safety or security. It's about silencing workers who are courageously standing up for integrity and accountability in government. In fact, this executive order is plainly retaliatory. The executive order says plainly that they are taking this action because AFGE is standing up for our members. That's our right. That's our job. But AFGE and our members are being attacked precisely because we've stood firm against reckless attempts to politicize the federal government, chaotic firings that are harming Americans across the country, and lawless actions by this administration. Now, Elon Musk, who nobody voted for, Donald Trump, and the Doge cronies are looking for revenge. And it's a chilling message to the rest of America. Speak up and they'll try to silence you next. But we won't be silenced. AFGE will not be silenced. Federal employees will not be silenced. The labor movement will not be silenced. And the American people will not be silenced. Because when federal workers lose their voice, every American suffers. Union contracts has consistently led to higher morale, better efficiency, and stronger public services. Stripping these rights will harm government effectiveness, sabotage public service, and betray the trust of millions of Americans who rely on the federal workers every single day. But we are not going to stand for it. We are not going to stop fighting. We're not going to be intimidated. AFG is already preparing legal challenges against these outrageous, illegal, un-American attacks. We'll fight in courtrooms, in Congress, in the media, on the streets, and across this nation to defend workers' rights, the integrity of public service, and the rule of law itself. To every American watching today, this isn't a partisan issue. It's an issue of fairness, justice, and democracy. And if they can strip the rights of a million Americans who serve their country with honor every day with a fight, without an uproar from the American people, then your rights will be next. So it's time for choosing. Are you for the Americans whose freedoms are under attack, the veterans, the Social Security workers, the nurses and doctors, the park rangers, the correctional officers, and much more? Or are you on the side of the people trying to take those freedoms away? Elon Musk, Donald Trump, the billionaires, and their Doge machine. As for me and my house, we are the side of the American people, of the veterans, of the people who keep America running, of the ones who help our seniors, of the ones who keep our food safe to eat and our environment clean. Federal workers keep America running. They are coming for us today, but they will come for us for you tomorrow. But we are not going to go down without a fight. AFG is strong, united, and ready to fight for workers. We're not going anywhere, and together we will prevail. I'd like to now allow some of our local leaders and members to share how these different EOs and directors are hurting the workers and American people. First is for everyone on this call, please call your member of Congress at 844-896-5059 and ask them to co-sponsor the bipartisan Protect America's Workforce Act, HR 2550. And thank our law officials that are on this call tonight for sponsoring this bill and supporting it. Thank you so much. Second, if you are an AFG member or bargaining unit employee, please sign up for e-dues at join.afge.org. Our union is fighting for you with or without the collective bargaining agreement, but your membership gives us the power to win in the workplace and Congress. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and thank you all for being on the call. Thank you, Rick.
Oh, thank you, Madam Vice President. And you know what? Listening to you speak, it's never been more true. It's not the courts that give us our power. It's our voices and our solidarity that give us power. And we just have to use it. And regardless of whether they say we can bargain or not, we're still going to fight together. And what you just said is exactly what we need to be doing. So thank you for bringing the fire. Thank you for continuing to lead the fight. And just know that we're with you every step of the way. Thank you so much. Really great. So we have a few folks that are going to have some questions. So I think first I'm going to call on Johnny Jones. Johnny is the local 1040 president of TSA based in Fort Worth. What's going on now with the TSA, Johnny?
Well, right now, on March the 7th of this year, we were the first to be our rights stripping away on March the 7th of this year. We have basically no rights anymore. They've instilled fear in the workforce. They have also began this attack on your rights to join a union. Obviously, there's no more dues deduction. One of the concerns that we have is the fact that we've barely, after the last 20 years, were able to secure full collective bargaining rights for our TSA officers. And now we are deeply faced with the challenges of losing everything we worked so hard for. I know that there's been a lot of budget proposals coming forth. And one of the questions that we're definitely dealing with is that the pay that was just won for the TSOs, the rights that was just won for the TSOs, may not be covered under the bill, the Protect the Workforce Act. I've came to reach out, and I'm just wanting to see if the Congress, if our distinguished members of Congress could make sure they add the cutout for the TSA officers across the country. I also serve as on the bargaining council. I'm the Council 100 Secretary Treasurer, representing the whole entire bargaining unit of 47,000 employees. And I wanted to say thank you so much for your time. I want to say thank you to MVP Cheryl Eliano for allowing me to ask these questions. And I will keep my time short. And I just want to say that the TSA has about 25% of its workforce is veterans. I started at the agency right after 9/11. The impacts to our workforce are traumatic. Our contract was 250 pages long, and now it is approximately 30 pages under strict governance of the agency, and they have definitely stripped the rights that we have worked away from the employees, worked so hard to gather for the employees. So thank you. And I want to say thank you to Congressman Vesey. We'll be researching 3 words that I can come across to talk to the employees, because, I have to be very quick into break rooms because they are monitoring everything I'm doing. I am under extreme scrutiny, and I'm in a class with the new hired employees. I started on August 18, 2002. I'm in a class with that were hired in April. So thank you, President Levy.
Thank you, my brother, and thank you for your work. And we'll be in touch with you because we'd like to get the word out to folks who let us know when we're traveling what we can do to let your members know that we support them. So Congressman Kassar, I think his question was, what are we going to do about what's happening with these carve out and these like direct attacks on this fundamental collective bargaining that these folks have organized. I mean, it was only recently that we won the victory to be able to bargain in the first place, and that they would take it away like that. What are we going to do? What can we do?
Mr. Jones, first of all, thank you for raising this, and we will check the bill because I don't want any section of federal workers, especially our veterans, especially folks that keep us safe at TSA, to get cut out of this. And so we should work with you on closer details to make sure that the rights that you just won get included in this bill. And the reason I think that we are pushing for this bill in particular is because there already is, if I understand it right, 1 Republican co-sponsor. And so we just need a couple more. And once you get to just 3 Republican members, if we can bring the whole Democratic Party together, then that is enough to pass a bill and turn things around. That's actually how we got Social Security fully restored back for so many public employees that had gotten taken away from, is that we got just a few Republican members being willing to sign on. So what we need to do is press every office, just like the VP said, to get on this bill. And like you pointed out, we should go and make sure that nobody's getting left out. So we'll follow up with you shortly and figure out if it's this bill or in a different place where things need to get patched up, because we don't intend to leave anybody out.
Thank you so much, Congressman. We appreciate that. And I'll definitely convey that to the members that we represent and the other officers that I also work with. And I want to say thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, Brother Jones. Thank you. And thank you, Congressman Kassar. Staying up in North Texas, Yolanda Connor, who's president of 2437, the Department of Veterans Affairs, which unbelievably has been targeted with unconscionable layoffs. And Sister Connor, talk to us about what's going on and what you need to know from us.
Okay, well, first of all, just thank you for this platform. I just want to express how stressful and disappointed it is to see the decrease in morale of excellent employees that come to work every day wondering what's next. We're brainstorming on ways to continue to provide the excellent care to our veterans, not only excellent, but safe care to our veterans, to kind of brace for the potential decrease of employment, the decrease of the resources. This administration must think the benefits that the veterans receive are an entitlement, not that they earned them, and they deserve it and more. The employees who are the ones that have been terminated are performing at an outstanding rate, but they're being terminated for a low performing and not fit for performing for the veterans and for the VA hospital, which is a lie. Now they're giving management the right to terminate employees based on suitability, based on their opinion, based on whether or not they feel an employee is suited to fit here, not based on rating, not based on merit, not based on performance or anything. But one thing I always say, I know Representative Vesey said, get on social media. Well, what I'm doing, I'm asking employees to call, share on social media, attend rallies. I tell my family and friends, it might not be your fight now, but keep living. It's coming to a news station close to you real soon. And if we don't stick together in this fight, we're going to fall apart all around. So my question is this: based on the resources and based on the VAs, have y'all reached out to any other kind of veteran resources that could actually help us in this fight? We had a rally across the street and the veterans showed up and they showed out, and they showed up in record numbers. And I know they'll be willing to do whatever. And you tell us where you need us to be and we're going to be there.
That's amazing. First of all, Yolanda, thank you so much. Second of all, I'm using that now. It may not be your fight right now, but keep living, because that's exactly right. That is exactly what is going on, because, you know, if you think they're stopping at what they're doing now, and so the whole labor movement needs to show up, because if they don't, it's coming to a neighborhood near you soon. So I'm going to ask Congressman Vesey, since he's up from up there in North Texas. Congressman, in terms of reaching out to veterans and other groups, what is it that folks can do to bring other folks into this fight, as opposed to, so it's not just us?
Yeah, absolutely, Rick. And let me just say this, the gentleman from TSA that you had on, I'm happy to come out and visit anytime. And thank you for asking me about that. Happy to come out. I've already met with some union officials, and happy to meet with more, because I know that people are concerned about this. So please have me out at any time. I want to come and talk with employees. The other thing that I will tell you that will be very helpful is a lot of people that have been laid off, they just, and I'm glad that Rick pointed out that this is not a partisan issue. It is so important that, particularly in North Texas, I'll use North Texas as an example, and Rick knows the areas that are outside of Travis County, and Greg grew up in Houston. He knows the areas that are outside of Harris County. Joaquin Castro knows the areas that are outside of Bexar County that aren't quite as democratic and are very, 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 very red. Sylvia knows the areas that are outside of Harris County that are also very, very red. Y'all need to engage those employees that are TSA federal workers that live in these areas and get them to tell their stories. If y'all saw them wearing MAGA hats and now they're out of work, if y'all know that they wear these red MAGA hats and they're worried about whether or not they're going to be able to make their mortgages or their car payments next month, you need to make sure that they're out there talking. They need to understand that what they're doing by laying off all of these people, that they are also hurting some of their own people. One of the stereotypes that I get from people that I know that are Republicans and Republican voters in DFW, they think that it's not coming to a station near you, like Yolanda said. They really don't. They don't think, they think that, oh no, these federal workers, they've always had it so easy all these years. I hear all of that all the time. I hear that all the time. They really don't, they really think that this is only hurting people that were not for Trump. And to the extent that you can get these people, and I'm sure there's like a lot of shame and embarrassment that they have over losing their jobs when they were, very triumphantly supporting Donald Trump for president in 2024, but get them out there. I'm telling you, get them out there. These people that live in these, like in Fort Worth, for those of you that are from Tarrant County, y'all know Parker County, where Aledo and Weatherford is. That is super, super red. But we have a lot of federal employees that live out there. That's 80% Trump County. Get them to go out there and talk. Outside of Dallas County, in places like Kaufman County, get those federal employees that live in Kaufman County, that live in East Texas, get them to start talking about how they're worried about their jobs. Some of them are Democrats, but a lot of them are Republicans, and they absolutely have to be heard from.
Yeah, that's 100% right, Congressman. And I'm just looking at the chat, y'all, and thank y'all for weighing in. The level of problems that people are facing here, from the way you're getting called back, from the way they're cutting on collective bargaining, there are so many problems that it's like, I hope people that aren't federal employees who are on here can see the scope of what folks are dealing with. And it really is going to take us, like President Connor said, reaching out beyond the folks we normally talk to bring a whole new set of eyes on this, because that's what it's going to take to turn it around. So, sister, thank you so much for joining us. And thank you again, Congressman. Appreciate that. We're getting close to time, and I want to make sure we hear from this next person, because I'm a big fan of her work and her leadership. Brittany Coleman from Local 252 at the DOE. Brittany is a leader. She's a growing leader in the Texas AFL-CIO. In addition to the AFGE, her agency has been one of the most viciously attacked, and Brittany has been standing there toe-to-toe with these folks. So I want to hear what she's got to say and see if she has a question too. Brittany?
Thank you so much, Rick. Appreciate it. And thank you for the platform, and thank you for everybody listening tonight. I could sum up what's happening with our agency right now. We are like a boxer that's up against the ropes right now. Ever since the inauguration, we've been, taking licks. We've been under attack. I am fortunate enough to serve a local that serves people across the nation. We're a national local. So we've been widely impacted by what's happened, but particularly here in Texas. So just with the environment that we've suffered, since the inauguration, since this new administration is coming to power, we've had a lot of people that were intimidated in various ways to either take the fork in the road, deferred resignation. They were intimidated into taking early retirement or early buyouts. And they were, felt this way because we had people that were put on administrative leave for no reason in accordance with an executive order that purported to take out diversity, equity, inclusion. So when you have people that just disappear, that you worked with, just one day they're just not there, you feel intimidated and you feel like you have to take those options. And we've seen people that are dealing with that right now. We're also dealing with the fact that there was a rift that impacted a significant number of our employees. We probably had about 1,300 employees, and we're only an agency about 4,400 people that were removed from the reduction in force. And I was impacted by that as well. So that has really just decimated the numbers that we have here at the department, and it's really hobbling our ability to serve the public. So what is it looking like as far as the impacts on our employees? Well, we had people who were removed during their probationary trial periods who were brought back on the payrolls for our agency, and they're finally getting paid. But what we're finding out now is that they don't have their insurance benefits. This means that they and their family members aren't getting the care that they need. They can't get their prescriptions. They get medical procedures that they need to battle serious illnesses. What we're seeing right now is that we still have people who are on administrative leave who are unable to work because we don't have a reason why, and they're just unable to work. The agency is not giving us a reason. We don't know why these people are still not working. We're also dealing with the fact that we've lost a significant bit of our workforce thanks to the reduction in force. And what this means is that we have less people that are processing FAFSA applications right now for students who are, awaiting decisions on colleges and trade schools and trying to figure out what does this mean financially. It means that we have people like me who are wondering, how am I going to pay my bills? What am I going to do for insurance coverage? We have people who've been left behind still at my agency who are bearing the load of a significant amount of work because of losing so many employees. We had 12 regional offices. They've been shrunk down to 5. People's caseloads have exploded. And also, too, this means that we've had a number of our Office for Civil Rights, or OCR offices, closed as well, which means that the only office, which is the Office for Civil Rights in Dallas, that served all of Texas, along with Louisiana and Mississippi, that office is no longer in existence. We've all been put on administrative leave. We're unable to serve the public, and we're seeing that cases are getting delayed. So there's been a lot of impact already, and I'm really concerned about the impact that will come if we continue to bear this assault and our agency is ultimately dismantled as was promised in Project 2025. So my question is how are you, as our congressional leaders, how do you plan to counter efforts to dismantle our agency? And we're seeing that in resolutions such as HR 899 and HR 2691, which propose to dismantle the Department of Education. And I also would like to know, how do you plan on fighting those efforts, and can we count on you to not support those bills?
Thank you, Brittany. And I'm going to ask Congresswoman Garcia to respond to that question. Congresswoman, what can be done by Congress to fight the dismantling of their agency? And will you commit to supporting efforts to support the Department of Education and fight further efforts to dismantle it?
Well, absolutely. Rick, you and I worked a lot when I was in the state Senate. I've always been against any changes on education, any privatizing of education, no vouchers, no charter schools. So we would fight back, and I believe that if you check the litigation tracker that I mentioned earlier, that keeps track of all the litigation that's already been filed, that it's our allies. Remember, we as members of Congress can't file a lawsuit unless it directly impacts us and we can be the plaintiff. I mean, if they cut my Social Security check, well, then I would have a beef. But I can't speak for everybody else as a member of Congress, except through the amicus brief. And for those of you who want to check, the webpage is justsecurity.org, just JUSTSECURITY, 2 simple words, .org. And it's a tracker, and it has a list of all the lawsuits that I mentioned, 161 lawsuits that we have filed, that have been filed. And they've been filed either by Democracy Forward, ACLU, NAACP, some of the unions, some of them are coalition groups. It's by a number of people that have been filing these lawsuits, and we're winning in the courts. And we'll continue to do that. But you all need to also continue to speak up. We're not supposed to tell people to go take action, but if your aunt or uncle say, "Hey, we're going to a rally, can I get a ride from you?" You should say yes.
We're definitely telling people to take action.
No
question about that.
Rick, I did a DREAM Act town hall recently, and I told the lady who just kept saying, "But what can I do? What can I do?" I said, "You know what?" I said, "Next time some of these kids go out there to march for the DREAM Act, join them."
There you go.
People need to see that it's about all of us, not just the workers, but their families.
That's right.
That's the way to do it, everyone together. Because remember, remember, Rick, when Hitler took over in 1933, he got rid of trade unions for national unity.
Yeah.
Donald Trump is trying to get rid of unions for national security.
There's way too many echoes of that going on right now. You're absolutely right. And, Congresswoman, you are bringing the fire, and I appreciate that for sure. Brittany, thank you. And we will be sending out the information. I see some stuff in the chat about people wanting to look at the tracker and things like that. We're going to send out all the information we've referred to tonight. So we have one last question, and I'm going to call on my brother Joel Smith from the Social Security Administration to give us a little bit of an update on Social Security and ask a question. And Brother Joel, I'm just going to tell you we're kind of close to the edge. So
I will be quick, Brother Levy. Don't worry.
All right.
So a quick thank you from everyone for putting this together. And I will say a statement from the Social Security employees that I work with. We apologize in advance for what we feel is failing you. When I started with this agency 21 years ago, we were able to do a disability claim in 2 to 4 months. We were able to see you within 30 minutes. Our wait time today was 4.5 hours. Our process for taking a disability application before getting a decision is nearly or over 14 months. We're being told to quit daily. We're being told to leave. When employees terminated, we do a grievance, we do an arbitration. They file an appeal. There's not a court to appeal it to. It sits. We have a MSPB, which would be the equivalent of y'all's NLRB. It's being dismantled. If we want to bargain, we have the FLRA, which has been dismantled. We have no one to litigate to. I'm a lawyer. I'm a law professor. I know the process. It's being completely dismantled where I can't represent the people that I was elected to do. I know I look young-ish, right? I started so young that I had hair on my head and not on my chin or on my back. I've been doing this since I was 8 years old, where my father was a union sheet metal worker and would take me to a union hall in Orange, Texas. So I live with you. I'm no politician. I feel your pain. But I have to ask a question, and I've unfortunately been eyeballing the chat. And so my question is this. There was an executive order issued that overnight took away rights from people that had contracts to no contracts. And it was done under this law. 5 USC 7103, subsection B1. The president may issue an order excluding any agency or subdivision thereof from coverage under this chapter if the president determines that A, the agency or subdivision is a primary function of intelligence, counterintelligence, investigative, or national security work. Words after. The law written is if the president determines. It's not even a rational person or a reasonable person. So hearing that and knowing from our perspective, we don't have a president in our corner. We don't have the majority of Congress in our corner. With precedent, we don't have the courts in our corner. And depending how you read that, we may not have the law in our corner. And we're losing our rights at the stroke of a pen. My question is, what can we do?
Okay. Joel, first of all, thank you for the power of your work and your question. I'm a little mad. My phone keeps blowing up from people saying, you need to get this dude on TV so everybody can hear what he's having to say. Because the story you tell of your mission as a worker is, and what you're trying to do is so powerful, Joel. Thank you so much for sharing it. And thank you so much for the work in which you do it. And I think we have a great person to answer your question. And that is Congressman Castro to close us out on this. So Congressman, rise to the moment and answer the brother's question.
Well, thank you, Joel. Thank you for all your work, but also for speaking so clearly about the challenge. You're right. It does seem like an uphill battle, but that's why all of the litigation is extremely important. But the other thing that I realized throughout all of this is that with the Constitution, even with a lot of our statutes, they assume a certain level of good faith by the President of the United States, that person will act in good faith. And what we've seen time and again is President Trump acting in bad faith. And that's created a real problem. And so what we're trying to do now legislatively is go through and try to figure out how you close the gap between what you've described, which is basically the spirit and the letter of the law. But there is, as you know, there's a lot of gaps there going thing by thing in different areas of policy. But that's another thing that we've undertaken now. I had spoken with the Biden administration. I'm on the Intelligence Committee, and I had spoken with folks at the National Security Council and others about doing that in the intelligence world because there were gaps I knew that he would exploit, that he is exploiting now. But the same thing has to be done in other areas of the law. But for now, even as we do that, we have to continue to fight and to litigate and to push back in the legislative chambers.
Thank you, and thank you for your time, Congressman.
Yeah, thank you to all of our panelists. Thank you to all of our congresspeople. But most of all, thank you to those of you who joined us and are still engaged and still fighting. You know, it's really easy to turn tail and to just say there's nothing we can do. The union movement has never done that. And the union movement will not do that now. We will be there for the federal workers, and we'll be there for whoever comes next. And we'll be there and we'll keep fighting and we'll keep organizing till we turn this around, and not to the way it was, but to a government and a situation where workers' needs come first. That's what we're fighting for together. That's what we're going to be doing now. So thank you all for joining us. We'll stay in touch. I hope you will too. Solidarity forever, y'all.